So you're very welcome. I hope today to provide you with some useful tips for managing the exam period in Trinity. So the first thing I want to talk about is the three main themes I'm going to cover this morning: preparing for online exams, strategies, and beating exam anxiety. And this guidance is based on online essay type exams or open book exams, but we do have advice for tackling MCQs. And you can access this and more advice on preparing for exams by enrolling in our Blackboard module, Ask DS. So if you go into Blackboard and in the module search bar, you type in disability service, Ask DS should pop up. And if you enroll yourself in that, there is a section on preparing for examinations, which I think you'll find useful. So preparation. Exams are about more than just testing your memory or your knowledge. Your lecturers want to know that you understand the subject matter of your course and that you can actually interpret what they are asking you to do in the exam question. They want to know that you are capable of finding relevant information from all of the sources at your disposal, that you can take good notes, you are able to acknowledge your sources, and you can organize this information into a coherent response. And this is usually in the form of an essay. So one of the very important things to do, especially if your exams are online, is to check and test all of your equipment, much as I had to do today before giving this webinar. So all of your cabling, your microphone, your internet connection, very important. Lighting and heat, it's really difficult to concentrate if you're feeling cold or you're feeling overheated. And if you are sitting a long exam, you need to make sure the lighting's correct. Make sure you've uploaded any specialist software that you need, like TextHelp or Grammarly, and that your Microsoft 365 products are installed, and you have plenty of paper and pens if indeed that you decide to use those. So setting up your venue, I think the occupational therapist talked to everybody about this earlier in the week. You need to set up your room for maximum focus, and by that I mean it's probably not a good idea to have your desk in front of a window. It's very distracting. So that kind of thing. Oh, sorry, I just moved on. Yeah. You need to also check some of the basic tasks connected to your exam. So the start time and the finish time, taking into account any additional time. Where has your exam got to be uploaded to? Is it through the Blackboard portal, or do you have to email it somewhere? How much extra time do you have? Exactly what topic areas the exam will cover? How long the essay or the responses need to be, whether they want references, and whether you're going to be asked a collection of short answers or longer answers. And this might seem really obvious, but these are all the things that help to reassure you. So most importantly, you should gather all of your materials before the exam begins. You need to be really organized. Nobody needs the added stress of flapping around trying to find some notes that you wrote at the beginning of the semester. So make sure they're actually physically organized into piles or boxes or baskets, filing them into an order. If your resources are digital, by that I mean if they're in your laptop or your desktop, make sure you have folders. Maybe put those folders temporarily on your desktop so they're easy to find. You need to know that everything is to hand and can be found easily, so something doesn't suddenly occur to you in the exam and then you're wondering where to find it. It helps to make the most of useful information that you need so that you can access it quickly. So using sticky notes or tabs to mark particular places in books or in your notes, or having a set of index card to hand, or maybe you've made a set of mind maps. Any definitions, formulas, essay verb meanings, these are very important, and we have advice on that in our Blackboard module. Understanding what it really means when they ask you to compare and contrast or evaluate, for example. Go back and review the list of topics in each of your modules and summarize what the main themes are, what are the key concepts, and the who, what, where, when, and how of each topic. So to give you an idea of how to do this, this is one of the best videos that I've seen on collating and organising all of the material that you will need before starting the exam. If I remember correctly, I think this student is studying business and law, but actually the subject matter is not very relevant. What she does give you is some excellent tips here for creating a notebook which has tabs for each topic and lists and indexes to make locating the information much easier. It's not a long video, it's about 4 minutes, but I really recommend that you watch it. So moving on, preparing yourself. It's a good idea to practice. Your TAs or lectures may have provided some sample questions, for example, in a tutorial. You can use essay questions from past exams, and they're not very updated in the academic registry. I think they're mostly from 2019, 2020, before we moved to online exams. But they still give you an idea of the kind of questions examiners or the kind of information examiners are going to be asking you in topic areas. In terms of sleep, it's not a good idea to stay up really late studying. You're not necessarily going to remember anymore. You're not giving your brain time actually to organize information. You really need to be mentally alert. So going to bed at a reasonable hour is very important. Also, as taking breaks, and you need to take a break within that exam. If you're doing an online exam, you have that facility just to get up and stretch, or maybe take a walk around your room, and make sure you have water to hand and snacks if you need to. Really importantly, switch off your phone and any social media. You don't need to have that open. It's a big distractor. Put it away, put it in a drawer. IS Services provide exam practice modules on Blackboard, and the address is at the top of this screen. It's under the section called Working Remotely, and I suggest that you explore this. So they have advice for Blackboard assignments, Turnitin, and Blackboard test as well. And by looking at this beforehand, you can ensure that you're more confident about what's going to be coming up and the whole process. So we're going to move on to some strategies as to what to do during the exam. I'm going to give you some examples. So the point of an open book exam, it's about preparing yourself mentally before the exam begins. Of course, all of us panic. It is very stressful, but try not to, because the open book exam is not very different from writing an assignment at home. It's just a shorter amount of time, in the same way that an online timed exam is not very different from an in-person timed exam. Make sure you have breakfast, or if it's an afternoon exam, that you have lunch. Even if you've got butterflies, if you feel a bit sick, you feel too anxious to eat, your brain actually needs food, and this is the time to treat yourself. So if it's 8 in the morning and you feel like a crisp sandwich, then have a crisp sandwich. This is the time when you can do anything that you want. If your exam is stretching over a longer period, very occasionally they do, make sure you take a break regularly and plan out the time allocated to you in terms of searching for your content or your answers or your resources, time for reading them, and then time for planning a written answer and then actually writing that answer. So before you start the exam, you need to be very clear on the instructions. So this is a question from a sociology exam. How does drug use affect a woman's ability to get out of poverty? So highlight the keywords. What this exam question is asking you, it's asking about drug use, women, and poverty. Then ask yourself, what is it that they want you to do? Be very clear. It goes back to those exam verbs. And to help you get away from the blank page moment, open a Word document, type in the question, type in a set of headings: introduction, point 1, 2, 3, conclusion, references. So at least now you have something on the page to get started with. So this is planning in paragraphs. So this is what I mean by putting in point 1, 2, and 3. You're going to, in the first instance, look for some main themes or topics that you can include in your points and in your exam answer. Don't use too many quotations. Examiners don't want to see an assignment just filled with quotes and very little input from the student. This technique, point, evidence, and explain. Make your point. What are you trying to say? So phrases connected to that might be, research tells us that a lot has been written about, current thinking on this topic is. Then provide your evidence for making that point. So which example are you going to use to back up your point? So this is usually where references come in. And then you're going to explain how that is relevant to your answer. So PEE, remember, if you remember that you have to P in every paragraph, it's a good way of doing it. And you need to be succinct, and you need to make sure that the points you're making are the points that are going to get you the most marks. It's a good idea to ensure that you have a really academic tone and a good flow to your writing. So your writing voice needs to be very clear and quite formal, not conversational or slangy, not using too many idioms. If you look at this resource from the University of Manchester, it's called an academic phrase bank, and it's a collection of sentence starters that can set you off on the right tone. Always do spelling and grammar check. If you have Grammarly installed on your laptop or in your browser, you can use that. Or Microsoft Editor is a very sophisticated tool as well. It's very difficult for examiners if there's a lot of typos and spelling mistakes. It really takes away from the reading of your answer. So managing your time, this is a very important part of an exam, and I'm going to show you something called a Pomodoro technique, which is chunking time into units. So the example I'm going to use is 20-minute units. So the tomato timer allows you to do this and will tell you when you need to move on. But it's completely customizable in terms of how you use it. You can set it to your preferred sound, you can change the volume, you can change the timing of it as well. So for example, if you wanted to extend it to 30 minutes, you can do so, depending on how long your exam is and how many exam answers you have to provide. So what I'm going to go through now is a plan for a 2-hour exam, just as an example. So the first thing to do, set the timer for 20 minutes and then hit start, and then minimize that window on your computer because you don't need to look at it. It's very distracting to watch the clock count down. If you've set an alert, the alert will go off, so you don't need to look at the screen. And in this 20 minutes, you're going to either write a hierarchical list or a mind map. You're just going to write down words that come into your mind, concepts, ideas, topics, any mnemonics or things that you must remember and you don't want to forget, key dates, keywords. We're not concerned about being neat or comprehensive at this stage. It's about collecting ideas. And if ideas pop up whilst you are writing, then note them down immediately. And keep going on this for about 20 minutes. Then you stop the timer. When the alert goes off, stop the timer and reset it to start again for another 20 minutes. And this time you're going to spend 20 minutes writing your paragraph outline. Again, here we have the planning in paragraphs from the University of Leeds. So you're going to take all of the keywords and notes and concepts and ideas and other things that you put on your page previously. You're going to allocate these now under the points, the introduction, point 1, 2, 3, etc. So you've taken all of your brainstorming information and now you're going to organize it, and you're going to do this for 20 minutes. When you've finished that 20 minutes and you have your paragraph outliner, you're going to reset. You've used 40 minutes now, and you're going to reset the timer for 60 minutes. Just before you do so, you could take a quick break of a couple of minutes, get up, stretch, reset the timer for 60 minutes, and you're going to start writing to your paragraphs. It's very important that you keep the examiner happy. The point of the exam, it's not a trick. They're not trying to find out what you don't know. They really, really want you to demonstrate what you do know. So your job is to make that absolutely clear. So make sure you answer the question and that you're demonstrating your understanding. Try and keep to the points that you've put down, no waffling. It's very difficult when you're marking exam papers if there's lots of pages of waffle. Be very analytical and focused, and by using that planning, you will have some structure in your answer. When that 60 minutes is up, reset the timer to 5 minutes, and this is when you're going to take a good break. Walk around the room, breathing, have a drink, maybe have something to eat, do some stretching, and when the alarm goes off after that 5 minutes, reset it for 15, because this 15 minutes is when you're going to reread your draft, make any corrections, improve your writing. If you like, there's a read aloud function in Microsoft Word, so you can hear your essay read back to you. And that's a pretty good technique to use. So those are some techniques for actually completing the exam and managing your time. So I'm just going to talk very briefly now about beating exam anxiety. Everybody gets nervous before an exam or before giving presentations, but there are some ways of managing this and some techniques that you might like to try. So the first one is about dealing with interrupting or negative thoughts that can keep popping into your mind, especially in a stressful situation. They're really intrusive. They can be very repetitive, and they make people fearful or apprehensive. So our task really is to interrupt these thoughts because we don't want them to control our exam nerves, and we don't want them to control our performance. So the best way to beat negative thoughts or intrusive thoughts is to replace them with positive thinking. Negative thoughts arise from negative beliefs about your ability to be successful, which are not realistic. And you can change your negative thoughts by positive thought replacement so that this doesn't become a circular thing or a self-fulfilling thing. So the way in which we do that, sorry, I just jumped forward there. The way in which this works is, for example, we might have thoughts that are quite rigid. I've got to pass this exam or else. Faulty logic. If I fail this exam, that means I'm a failure. Comparing yourself to other people. Other people probably find this exam easy and I don't. And if I get nervous or too nervous, I'm just going to go completely blank and I won't be able to answer the exam. These are different types of negative thoughts that might arise. So the best way to beat these is to replace them. Practice thought replacement. You can do this whilst you're revising as well. Build new and positive habits and beliefs about yourself whilst you're studying, even before and during the exam. Anytime you notice these negative thoughts creeping in, replace them with something positive. I can do this and I'm going to do my best. I can pass this test. I'm just going to focus on one question at a time. I'm going to focus on the exam in front of me, and I'm not going to think about anything else. So, for example, life is always going to be worth living. This is just an exam. How other people perform is not relevant to me. As long as I give it my best effort, I'd like to pass this exam, but if it happens I don't, life is still going to go on anyway. And the marks or the score that I get for my exam answer are related to the subject. They're not related to me as a person. Other examples of thought replacement, I know I'm nervous, but I'm just going to do my best. I respect myself for taking this course and for sitting this exam. It doesn't matter if it's not perfect. I'm okay with just passing. So try and disrupt any negative thoughts with something more positive. Oh, another technique you can use, and this is a technique I use as well, it's very helpful, is to acknowledge these thoughts and say, okay, that's how I'm feeling, but you know what? I'm going to put those in a virtual box here. I'm going to close the box, put it on my virtual shelf in my room, and I'm not going to take any notice of it until the exam is over. If I feel like it, I can deal with them then. I am not going to deal with it now. I'm going to put it away elsewhere. You could also hack into your nervous system. So the vagus nerve is really important. It runs from our brainstem all the way through most of our organs. And that's where we get the expression, oh, I have a gut feeling from. It's really, really important. And stimulating your vagus nerve can be really helpful in managing stressful situations. So get your vagus nerve going, and you can do this with positive thoughts, as we've just looked at. Another method, it sounds a bit random, but giving yourself a cold shock. An ice cold shower, drinking a glass of ice cold water, or splashing your face with ice cold water. This wakes up your vagus nerve. It also responds to other kinds of stimulation. So, for example, if you gargle a glass of water and make some noise, it stimulates the muscles in your mouth and your throat. And research shows that this can actually stimulate your working memory. So pretty useful for exams. Any kind of singing, chanting, humming, something upbeat. Start your morning off before the exam, sing your favorite song, play your favorite Spotify playlist, anything that triggers a feel good. It releases oxytocin, which makes us feel happy and comforted. Having a foot massage, if you happen to be living with anybody who'd be kind enough to do that for you, it helps manage your heart rate and your blood pressure. It's very relaxing. It's good to do just before bedtime, for example. Actually, before the exam, you could massage both sides of your neck, because this will also help to activate your vagus nerve. Laughter, a natural booster to our immune system. Just to relax yourself, watch something amusing on YouTube. If you practice already yoga or Tai Chi, maybe take 15-20 minutes before your exam to go through some of your exercises. This will release some calming neurotransmitters in your brain. Any kind of deep breathing to lower your blood pressure, and any kind of exercise actually also stimulates your gut. That's why it's really good to take a couple of minutes during the exam just to stand up and take a break, shake yourself down, do some stretching. And relax. It is okay to take a break from studying. You just need to keep an eye on the time. And after the exam, it's really important to reward yourself with something that you enjoy. So just to summarize, reject any worrisome thoughts. Practice thought stopping. You focus on your task for the exam. It's a short period of time. Visualize the bucket of knowledge that you have in your head and the materials you have around you, and you're going to empty that into the bucket of the exam. Breathe and relax. It's okay to take a short break. And don't give up. Be as persistent as any distracting thoughts that you have. You can get through the exam and you will be successful. So lots of information there. As I said at the beginning, we have more information in our Ask DS module on Blackboard. If you have any questions, you can always drop us a line at askds@tcd.ie, or